Our group is Radios, and our names are Dominique, Aaron, Josh, and my name is Shannon. Mine was the social context. For environment, it has helped farmers know when to plant their crops, and if there are storms, it's able to help people evacuate where they live so they don't get swept out to sea or get hit by a hurricane. It comes to very good use to keep people safe or to be able to feed people in the future. For law enforcement tends to use it to communicate with each other, to find a location of where a crime is committed, or when chasing somebody down many roads and highways. It's used to get that person and all meet up to catch the person, or just in general communicating with each other to keep them safe as well. For politics, it's to show viewpoints of the different parties, Democrats, Republicans, all sorts of things, and to know what's going on in the world today. As for religion, it's used to listen to churches, passages, and songs. You can do this anywhere in your car because it's right there at your fingertips. For the world stock market, they use radios to check on stocks. Culture, use it to listen to music or stories. In the olden days, they would listen to stories on a radio to pass the time, and this also helped kids in education with their comprehension and reading skills. Also, math and puzzle, because they would have puzzles on the radio for people to depict and solve. For communication, the military uses it quite a bit. They use radios to communicate with each other as well as across enemy lines or to interpret messages. So secret messages that are being passed to buddies or pals, they have to intercept them and then decode them to figure out what the enemy was saying. And this was also done for us as well, to keep us safe and to let us know what the other people were doing. Technology, it's really to stay connected with the world and to keep you not alone. It's to share a connection. In daily life, people use it for safety and in case of emergencies. It's for if there's terrible weather, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis. It helps people evacuate and get to a safe area, as well as fires.
Hi everyone, I'm Josh, and I'm going to do the contemporary connections for what major modern uses radios are used for now. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how radio shows were one of the big popular uses of mass media before television and even streaming was a thing. And radio shows have really turned into modern podcasts. You have a lot of people who are doing radio shows throughout the 1900s and even into the early 2000s that are transitioning to a podcast platform as the exclusive way that they deliver their media to their audience. I think that's just a really cool transformation of how radio has worked in the past. Another thing is radio telescopes, like you can see in the bottom left-hand corner. So radio telescopes can see radio waves that we can't see with our eyes, obviously. It allows astronomers to learn a lot more about our universe. They can observe things that are millions of light years and billions of light years away just from using these radio waves. These telescopes are massive and they look like giant satellite dishes. Another thing is mobile phone bandwidth. So this is something that we use every single day. So bandwidth, the really good way that I thought of explaining this when I was reading about it that somebody had was, it's like how big a pipe is. And it's not necessarily how fast it flows, but how big the pipe is. So like really good bandwidth is a massive pipe that allows a lot of data, which is the water, to flow through. But if you have a really small pipe, it doesn't allow as much data to flow through. So like 5G, that is the size of the bandwidth that your phone is using when it's at that. Or versus at 3G, it's a lot slower, and it just goes so much slower because it doesn't have as much room to shove that data into your phone. Another one is microwaves. So I think almost everyone here probably has used a microwave in their life. We use it all the time, and it's super great technology that still is used in the modern day. Bluetooth is another one that is super popular. You have those little like headsets that every dad businessman used in the early 2000s, and now it's so popular with AirPods and wireless headphones. Military uses, there a lot of times radios used for scanners and air defense capabilities, which is a really modern change of how it's used. And then I'm going to talk a little bit later about how I personally use a radio for military use, actually just this prior weekend. Also, computer networks, radio signals are sent up using satellites to talk through the satellite, which talks down to wherever you're sending that computer network up with.
Hi, my name is Dominique Medrano, and I got historical development. Heinrich Hertz, a German physicist, discovered and studied radio waves in 1886. Guglielmo Marconi, an Italian, developed the first practical radio transmitters and receivers around 1895 and 1896, and radio began to be used commercially around 1900. In the 1920s, the first commercial radio station went on the air in the early 1920s. It was an instant hit. This ushered in a radio revolution known as the Golden Age of Radio. The radio has evolved from a bulky device to a nice, complex device housed in wooden cabinets. In the 1930s, 40s, the transmitter worked perfectly. The transmitter makes it possible for radios to be compact. The radio changed as a result of Bell Laboratories' discovery. In the 1950s, 60s, the radio station began broadcasting national news. Some stations began to gain a reputation for broadcasting from various locations. The space program accelerated the advancement of the integrated circuit. The radio could then be housed inside an eyeglass frame or a pair of small earphones. The radio was now housed within smaller speakers. In the 1970s, 1980s, the size of the radio speaker increased. The speaker's sound quality improved when music or speech was played through it. The radio is now more clearly audible. In the 1990s, lights and controls were added, as well as a screen to show which station you are on. Radio features and technology evolved as technology advanced. The radio was updated slightly with a larger screen and a more upscale appearance. The radio now has more features thanks to the addition of buttons and knobs. In the 2000s, radios were small and had large screens and controls. It is complicated, and it is now also found inside automobiles. The radio has evolved to include clocks, and we can now connect devices to it to play music or make phone calls. The radio has evolved as a result of technological advancements.
Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, has played a significant role in the development of the past 100 years. The science behind radio starts with the antenna. This antenna picks up and transmits electromagnetic waves. Frequency modulations are fast electromagnetic waves, which helps with better sound and why most of the radio channels are used with FM or frequency modulation. Amplitude modulations are slower electromagnetic waves that tend to be staticky and not used as much as the frequency modulations are. As time has gone by, the radio has been perfected into the wireless, touchable, and even voice-commanded radios we use today. Back in the 1920s, they used a dial to try to find a channel that they can use and enjoy. Today we have touchscreens. We can connect Bluetooth to radio and listen to music or podcast. Car radios are able to connect to cell phones with Bluetooth and are able to also listen to music or even podcasts. Through the design of the antenna, through the engineering, the antenna is able to receive or transmit sound waves. Lastly, the mathematics behind radios are in the designs. Radios way back in the 1920s were huge in their height and their weight. They used to be the size of cabinets and took up quite a bit of space. The radios today are small and compact and even portable. Science, technology, engineering, and math, aka STEM, has played a big role in the development of radios from the 1920s all the way to today.
Hey everybody, so for the last part of our project, I'm going to talk about a radio that I use regularly. I talked about it earlier in our presentation during the modern uses, but it isn't very modern. The military really needs to do a lot of work on improving this, but this is an ASIP radio. It's what the Army uses mostly for communicating when we're out in the field. This back here is where the battery pack goes. That's where the antenna goes. This is where you put the hand mic in, or you put in anybody you need to talk to. And this is where you can plug it in to fill the information in or out of it. So there's actually, in ROTC, we only use single channel just because we're not in a super tactical environment that we need to change our frequency. There's actually something you can put in there that hops the frequencies, so it's really hard to get hacked into and have people listen to what you're saying. So you put that in, and it syncs with all the other radios that you're using to use, and they all sync together, and they all hop to the same frequencies together. And this little knob is where you input, where you can change the mode. There's a bunch of different modes. There's like a load mode where you put in all of your information using these things. There's actually an Arabic version of it that the Middle East uses. I think this is a Jordanian radio ASIP. But you click through the menu button and it'll change a bunch of text. You can change the volume, how much power you're using, depending on how far away you are from your other radios. And then you can change it from low to on to actually use it. And then you can actually put it on standby. So if you're not using the radio, you always put it on standby so you don't use more battery than you have to, because then you have to call up a report and be like, hey, we need batteries for our radios. They're going to die soon. Just helps keep the battery alive a little bit longer. But that is our presentation on radios. I wish I could have gotten one in person, but that was not going to happen. But I hope y'all enjoyed our presentation.